Jumpers, prancers, chariots, whimsical figures, the embodiment of fun and frivolity, carousels.
It's just a beautiful piece of art, and just to see the faces light up when the kids show up.
Carousels had their heyday in this country in the early 20th century, when European carvers emigrated and started using their trade on what became amusement park staples. At their peak, there were about 4,000 carousels in the United States. Now, fewer than 150 exist. The most in one place can be found in upstate New York. 6 carousels are at parks in and around Binghamton, known as the carousel capital of the world.
I think that it shows that we care about our past, that we're willing to take the time to make sure that our future enjoys the carousels.
All the carousels were built between 1920 and 1934 and are on the New York State Historic Register and the National Register of Historic Places. Shoe manufacturer George F. Johnson donated each of them, wanting to give residents a happier life.
When you have something like this that someone donated to your city with great intention, I think it's important that you keep it.
Because Johnson grew up poor, he didn't want money to stand in the way of happiness and vowed no child would ever pay money to ride one of his carousels. The price of admission? A piece of litter. Through the years, the carousels have seen their share of wear and tear. This woman has a deep passion to preserve their history.
The more that you see in original paint, the more it tells you about how things were done and why they were done.
Susan Germain practices a craft that is a dying art. She's a carousel restorer.
I like the research. That's really fun. It's really exciting to find something, on the horse, like scraping it and finding a little design that was hand-painted.
Susan painstakingly paints, primes, and primps carousel characters, like this duck. It once was this shade of blue, but her research says it should be this shade.
It pains me when I see one painted incorrectly. Even if it's just a photograph, I think, oh, why did somebody do that when you could have done it properly? So I feel a real strong, deep sense of obligation, not only to make the carousels look right, but to the people of the community who ride the carousel.
We caught up with her nearing the end of a 3-year restoration project. When she looks into the eyes of these works of art, she thinks about the past.
I kind of go into almost like a Zen-like trance state where I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing, but I'm thinking more about, wow, who was painting this before me? And sometimes I really think way back about being the first person to paint it and what they were thinking about painting it. It pulls up my finger like a piece of tape.
Susan loves to share her knowledge about this dying craft.
So now it's going to take that gold, it's just going to lay right on top gently.
Did it take you a long time to learn how to do this part?
No, this is what apprentices start with. This is how you learn how to get a feel for the brushes and a feel for the carvings. And the gold and silver leaf, that's really fun and it's gratifying because it's a big bang for your buck. After 2 hours, all of a sudden the whole horse is glistening and glittering and beautiful.
From beginning to end, the actual painting of one carousel figure might take as few as 2 days.
They say, wow, it only took you 2 days to paint that horse. No, it took me 30 years and 2 days to paint that horse because it took me all of that research of knowing how to do it before I got to the painting stage. A reprint, of course,
And with every carousel she researches and restores, there is a tale to tell. The tale of this flying horse involves the police, a ransom note, and a 2.5-year mystery. This carousel is the main attraction at Carousel Center Mall in Syracuse. It's the first Susan ever worked on after her apprenticeship. It was about this time the mystery started to unfold. The carousel had been auctioned off to mall owners who put it in storage until it was time for restoration.
when they shipped everything off, they found out that one horse was missing. So you have 42 horses on this ride, and the value is that the whole thing is intact in one piece and all original, and one horse is missing. So
That's right. Somebody pilfered a flying horse. The search was on. Police were involved. So was a lawyer representing a mysterious client. They even tried to get money for the missing mare.
they wrote out a check. They got a little paper map with a treasure map showing X marks a spot as to where the horse was. They found this thing in a farmer's field buried under 6 inches of dirt wrapped in plastic.
To this day, the suspect in the horse for ransom case remains a mystery. No such secrets for our next carousel story.
Glad you like it.
This is a 1906 steam-driven carousel owned by a small-town fire department.
Very, very rare. It's before carousels went up and down. It was before they had poles. They're attached by their bellies to the platform and they rock back and forth. Very early, very primitive.
And you can't just ride it any old time.
They only operate it during the Firemen's Carnival 3 days a year in the summer. So you have to be right there when it's open, and that's it. If you don't see it, you're not going to see it for another year.
And the story here comes from another dimension. The view from this gazebo to the recreation park carousel might seem oddly familiar. It was the inspiration for a Twilight Zone episode.
It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
The story of successful ad executive Martin Sloan, who meets his younger self in the old neighborhood at the carousel. Look at the rounding boards on the recreation park carousel. A story, if you will, recounting a television show made popular by a man who grew up 5 blocks from this carousel. The man who brought you the Twilight Zone, Rod Serling. Binghamton will never forget him, and he certainly never forgot it, using carousels or small-town themes in many of his shows as an homage to his hometown.
I grew up about 4 blocks from here, and this was what we all did. This carousel was crowded. You had to wait in line for the next ride. So you'd get off of one ride, run around the fence, and get right back in line.
So we made a day out of it. We'd come down, have a picnic under the pavilion, go swimming, come in here and ride the carousel, and it was always a great day.
When you get on this carousel and you go around in a circle, you can almost shut your eyes and imagine half of the neighborhood here.
And imagine neighborhoods for generations to come sharing their tales of the flying horses. Susan's meticulous restoration work helps keep those stories going round and round, just like the carousels themselves. For My Generation, I'm Diane Roberts.